The war between Earth and the Galactic Coalition ended without victory songs or celebrations. It ended with silence, broken ships drifting in space, and treaties signed by tired hands. Humanity had survived its first interstellar war, and to the surprise of the galaxy, it had not been erased. Still, survival came with a price. On the capital world of the Coalition, a place of floating spires and crystal bridges, the Sapphire Court gathered. The court was ancient, older than many stars mapped by human telescopes. It was ruled entirely by females of the dominant alien species, beings tall and luminous, their skin shifting like polished stone under light. They believed order was life, and control was peace. In the center of the vast chamber stood one human. Captain Elias Rourke wore no armor, only a simple dark uniform marked with faded service insignia. His hands were free, though armed guards surrounded him at a distance. He stood straight, feet planted firmly on the smooth floor, his eyes calm as he looked at the court above him. He had faced worse. Elias had been chosen not by chance, but by design. He was a frontline soldier who had survived battles where entire units vanished. His record showed endurance, restraint, and an ability to remain functional under pressure that alien analysts found unsettling. To the Sapphire Court, he was a test subject. To Earth, he was a shield. A voice echoed through the chamber, calm and sharp. Human Captain Elias Rourke. You stand before the Sapphire Court as fulfillment of Earth's obligation under the ceasefire accord. Elias did not bow. He had been told not to. The voice continued. Your species has been assessed. Humanity is adaptive, resilient, and dangerously unpredictable. As such, the court has ruled a controlled integration experiment. Images formed in the air, symbols, diagrams, and alien figures appeared. Translated into human language by the device at Elias's ear, the court explained the decree. Elias was to undergo a formal alien bonding rite with several newly recognized adult females of their species. The rite, they claimed, was not emotional or intimate. It was biological, neurological, and cultural, a process meant to test compatibility and absorb useful traits. To the court, it was no different than studying metal strength or star radiation. To humanity, it sounded like ownership. Elias listened without interruption. His face did not change. Inside, his thoughts moved slowly, carefully. He remembered Earth's diplomats arguing in closed rooms. He remembered the silence when his name was selected. He remembered agreeing, not because he wanted to, but because someone had to stand there instead of a civilian. When the court finished, the chamber waited for his response. Do you accept the court's ruling? The voice asked. Elias lifted his head slightly. I acknowledge it, he said in calm, clear English. A ripple of surprise passed through the court. Humans were expected to resist loudly or beg quietly. Calm acceptance was unusual. One of the judges leaned forward, her eyes glowing faintly. Clarify. Acknowledgement is not acceptance. Elias met her gaze. I understand what you're ordering. I also understand I don't get a choice. That answer pleased some of them. Another judge spoke. Correct. You do not. Elias paused, then spoke again. Then, I have one question. The guards shifted. The court allowed it. Does your law apply equally? Elias asked. To those who survive what it demands? The chamber fell silent. The question was not hostile. It was not a threat. But it carried something unfamiliar certainty. The judges exchanged subtle signals. Finally, the central voice replied, Survival is irrelevant. Compliance is all that matters. Elias nodded once. Understood. He was escorted from the chamber and taken deep into the Capitol complex. The path took him past vast windows that showed the city below, alive with light and motion. Everything was clean, controlled, and perfectly ordered. No chaos, no waste, no freedom. Elias was placed in a holding suite designed for non-alien physiology. It was comfortable enough, though clearly built for observation. Transparent walls allowed unseen watchers to monitor him. He sat on the edge of the resting platform and took a slow breath. Back on Earth, the news had already spread. Humanity had not been given details, only that a soldier had been taken as part of the treaty. Protests formed in major cities. Some called Elias a hero, others called the government cowards. In a secure room beneath Earth's Planetary Defense Command, analysts watched alien data streams and biometric readings from Elias's suit implant. Lines of code and translated alien terms filled the screens. One scientist spoke quietly. "His stress markers are stable." A general nodded. "They will underestimate him." "They always do," another replied. Back on the alien world, preparations began. The newly recognized adult females chosen for the rite were informed of their role. To them, this was an honor. They had been raised to believe the court's will was absolute. The idea of bonding with an alien was strange, but not forbidden. Humans were seen as lesser, but useful. They expected a fragile creature. Elias was escorted into a vast chamber designed for the rite. The space was filled with soft light and complex machinery that hummed quietly. He could feel a faint vibration through the floor. Like a heartbeat, alien scientists adjusted instruments and spoke in sharp tones. To them, Elias was already part of the system. A tall alien overseer approached him. "You will remain still during synchronization. Resistance will increase neural feedback." Elias looked at her. "I've been shot, burned, and exposed to vacuum," he said simply. "I'll manage." She tilted her head, confused by his tone. Humans were not supposed to speak like that. As preparations continued, one of the younger alien females studied him closely. She had expected fear. She saw none. Instead, she saw focus. She asked quietly, "Are you afraid?" Elias considered the question. "Yes," he said honestly. "But fear doesn't decide what I do." That answer stayed with her. When the process began, Elias felt pressure inside his skull. A wave of sensation that tried to pull his thoughts apart and reshape them. The machinery reacted, lights shifting as systems adjusted. He clenched his jaw, steadying his breathing the way he had been trained. He did not fight the sensation. He adapted to it, riding it like a storm. Alien monitors flickered. "This is unexpected," a scientist said. "His neural patterns are stabilizing." Another replied, "Increase synchronization strength." They did. Elias felt the pressure intensify. Memories surfaced, battlefields, fallen friends, endless training. He anchored himself to them. Not with anger, but with discipline. The machines struggled. For the first time in centuries, the Sapphire Quartz technology did not behave as predicted. Elias did not know it yet, but something had already changed. Not in him, in them. And the court, watching from above, failed to understand one simple truth about humans. They were not made to be owned. They were made to endure. The machines did not stop when the first signs of instability appeared. The alien scientists believed any resistance could be corrected with stronger input. That belief had guided their civilization for thousands of years. Systems were built to overpower weakness, not understand it. Elias Rourke stood at the center of the chamber as the pressure inside his mind increased. The sensation was not pain in the way humans described pain. It was more like being pulled in many directions at once. Memories and instincts touched by something foreign, something cold and precise. His breathing slowed. Years of training returned to him. On frozen moons, in burning atmospheres, in dark ships with no gravity and no sound. He had learned how to separate feeling from action, fear from function. The alien system searched for panic, for collapse. It found none. The monitors around the chamber began to show irregular patterns. Neural waves that should have bent toward the alien standard instead held their shape. Some even pushed back. "This is inefficient," one scientist said. "The human mind is resisting alignment." Another replied, "Increase duration. Fatigue will break him." Time passed. Minutes stretched into hours. The newly adult alien females, chosen for the rite, stood in their assigned positions, linked to the system. At first, they felt nothing unusual. The process was familiar to them, taught in theory since childhood. Then small changes began. One of them felt emotions she could not name. Not fear. Not obedience. Something quieter. Awareness. She glanced at Elias. He stood still, sweat forming on his skin, his face calm but focused. He was not dominating the system. He was enduring it. Another alien female felt a strange hesitation. A question formed in her thoughts without permission. Why was this human not breaking? She had never questioned a right before. The overseer noticed the hesitation and issued a sharp command through the link. Obedience returned. But something remained underneath. A seed. On the observation level above, members of the Sapphire Court watched in silence. Their expressions were unreadable. But concern moved through their shared signals. This should not be happening, one judge said. The human neural structure was mapped. Compliance probability was high. Another responded, humans survived a war against us. Perhaps our models are incomplete. Incomplete does not mean incorrect, a third said. Continue. Down below, Elias felt a shift. The pressure changed direction. Instead of pulling him apart, it tried to overwrite him. Emotions were fed into his mind, commands wrapped in sensation. Submit, align, accept. Elias's jaw tightened. He remembered his first day of training, when an instructor had shouted until voices broke. He remembered learning that obedience, without understanding, was weakness. He remembered being taught that humans did not survive by surrendering who they were. He focused on one thought: choice. The system reacted violently. Alarms flickered to life. Data streams spiked. One scientist stepped back in shock. His neural output is influencing the others. That's impossible, another said. He's only one subject. But the data did not lie. The alien females linked to the system began showing synchronized fluctuations that matched Elias's patterns. Not copied. Resonating. One of them staggered slightly. Her eyes widened as she experienced something new. Not command. Not instinct. Empathy. She felt Elias's restraint, his discipline, his refusal to impose himself even under pressure. It was not weakness. It was control of a different kind. Pause the process, she said suddenly, her voice shaking. The overseer turned sharply. You are not authorized to speak. I am part of the right, the young alien replied. I feel instability. The overseer hesitated. That had never happened before. Continue, the court ordered from above. The process resumed, stronger than before. Elias felt the surge and nearly lost his footing. His vision blurred. His heart rate spiked. For a moment, the edge of panic appeared. He pushed it down. He had done this before. On battlefields where surrender meant death. He centered himself again, grounding his thoughts in simple truths. I am human. I choose. The machines screamed. On Earth, alerts flashed across screens. Scientists leaned forward as Elias's readings climbed into unknown ranges. This isn't stress, one said. It's adaptation. A general folded his arms. He's doing exactly what we hoped. Are we sure this won't kill him? Another asked. The general was silent for a moment. We were never sure he would survive the war either. Back on the alien world, the Sapphire Court began to argue among themselves. This was rare. Public disagreement weakened authority. The right is changing them, one judge warned. Then stop it, another said. No, the first replied. If we stop now, we admit error. The youngest judge watched the chamber carefully. She noticed how the alien females no longer looked empty-eyed. They were watching Elias, learning from him. This human is not dominating, she said slowly. He is sharing. Sharing is inefficient. Another snapped. But it is effective, the youngest replied. Below, the system finally reached a breaking point. The synchronization collapsed inward, cutting power automatically to prevent damage. The chamber lights dimmed. Elias dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Guards rushed forward, weapons raised. The alien females stepped back, shaken but unharmed. Silence filled the space. Elias looked up slowly. His head ached. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes were clear. The overseer stared at the readings in disbelief. "You should have lost cognitive coherence." Elias wiped sweat from his face. "I've had worse days." One of the alien females took a hesitant step toward him. "You did not force us," she said quietly. Elias looked at her, confused. "Force who?" "Us," she repeated. "The system expected dominance. You resisted it." Elias shook his head slightly. "I wasn't here to control anyone." That answer spread through them like a shockwave. The court reconvened in emergency session. The bonding rite was officially paused, something that had never happened in recorded history. "This human is a destabilizing element," one judge declared. "He is an anomaly," another agreed. The youngest judge spoke again. "Or, he is a mirror." The others turned to her. "He did not break," she continued. "He did not submit, and he did not dominate. He endured. And in doing so, he exposed a flaw in our system." The chamber fell quiet. Elias was escorted back to his holding suite, this time without restraints. The guards kept their distance. Something about him made them uneasy now. Inside the suite, Elias sat heavily on the platform. His muscles ached. His thoughts slow. He closed his eyes. Hours later, the transparent wall shimmered. One of the alien females stood outside, escorted, but unrestrained. She looked uncertain, but determined. "I requested permission to speak with you," she said. "Did they give it?" Elias asked. "They did not forbid it," she replied. He managed a small smile. "That's progress." She studied him carefully. "Why did you resist the right the way you did?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because if I let it change who I am, then everything I survived would mean nothing." She absorbed that in silence. "You are dangerous," she said finally. Elias nodded. "So are you. You just don't know it yet." When she left, Elias leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The court believed the experiment was failing. In truth, it was only beginning. Humanity had not sent a weapon. It had sent an idea. And ideas were far harder to control. The pause in the bonding rite was announced across the alien capital. Though the public explanation was vague, the Sapphire Court claimed the delay was for system recalibration. In truth, they were afraid, not of Elias Rourke alone, but of what had begun to move through their people. Elias felt the change immediately. The guards outside his suite were different. They still watched him, but their posture was less rigid. Their eyes lingered longer, as if they were thinking instead of merely observing. For the first time since arriving, Elias was allowed limited movement. He was escorted to a shared garden chamber designed to calm neural stress. Soft light filtered through living crystal structures. Alien plants floated gently in the air, responding to motion and sound. Elias walked slowly, feeling the strange calm of the place. His body still ached, but his mind was clear. He was not alone. One by one, the alien females from the right entered the chamber. They were accompanied by overseers, but those overseers kept their distance. The young aliens stood together, uncertain but no longer silent. One of them spoke first. "The court says you are unstable." Elias raised an eyebrow. "They've said worse about humans." Another asked, "Why did the system respond to you?" Elias considered his answer carefully. "Because it expected me to break or submit. Humans don't work that way." A third stepped forward. "Then how do you work?" Elias looked at them, really looked. They were not enemies. They were products of a system that had never allowed choice. "We adapt," he said. "We question. And when something tries to decide our future without asking us, we push back." The overseers shifted uneasily. The conversation ended when a sharp signal echoed through the chamber. The court was calling Elias back. This time, he was not alone. The alien females were ordered to attend. The sapphire court chamber felt colder than before. The judges sat higher, their presence heavy with authority. The central judge spoke without delay. "Captain Elias Rourke, the bonding rite has been compromised." Your continued participation poses a risk to social stability. Elias met her gaze. That wasn't my intention. Intent is irrelevant, she replied. Outcome is all that matters. One of the younger alien females stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Gasps rippled through the chamber. She is not authorized, a guard began. Let her speak, said the youngest judge of the court, her voice calm but firm. The alien female straightened. The right did not fail, she said. It revealed something. The court reacted with visible tension. Clarify. We were taught the right strengthens our civilization, the young alien continued. But when linked with the human, we experienced independent thought, emotional depth, awareness. That is contamination, another judge snapped. No, the young alien replied, her voice shaking but strong. It is understanding. And the chamber erupted in overlapping signals and voices. The Sapphire Court had not faced open contradiction in generations. Elias stood silent. Finally, the central judge raised her hand. Enough. The human will speak. All eyes turned to Elias. He took a slow breath. I never came here to change your people, he said. I came because my world was told someone had to. Your presence has already changed them, the judge replied. Yes, Elias said simply. Because systems built on control don't handle choice very well. The court bristled. You accuse us of oppression? One judge demanded. I accuse you of fear, Elias said calmly. You built a perfect order because chaos once nearly destroyed you. I understand that. Humans have done the same. The chamber quieted. But you froze your civilization in time, Elias continued. You stopped trusting your own people. You decided thinking was dangerous. One judge leaned forward. And you believe your species is different? Elias nodded. We are. Because we fail, over and over. And we learn from it, a sharp command echoed. This is not a philosophical debate. It should be, Elias replied. Because what you're really afraid of isn't me. It's that your people might realize they are more than what you allow them to be. The court's patience snapped. The human has exceeded permitted influence, the central judge declared. Initiate termination protocol. The words hung in the air. Guards raised their weapons. Before they could act, the alien females stepped forward as one, placing themselves between Elias and the court. Shock rippled through the chamber. You will stand down, the central judge ordered. We cannot, the young alien who had spoken before said. Not anymore. The youngest judge rose slowly from her seat. They are exercising free will, she said, something we claim to value in our allies. They are disobeying, another judge argued. They are choosing, the youngest replied. There is a difference. The court fractured into arguments, their unity cracking under pressure. On Earth, alarms blared. Elias's vitals spiked. Military commanders leaned forward, hands clenched. If they execute him, one began. They won't, the general said quietly. Not now. Back in the chamber, Elias raised his voice for the first time. Not loud, but steady. If you kill me, he said, you prove everything I've said. You show the galaxy that your strength depends on silence. How? The court hesitated. The central judge stared down at him. And if we release you? Then you show them, Elias replied, that your civilization is strong enough to survive change. Silence fell. The alien females waited, tense but resolute. At last, the youngest judge spoke the words that would echo through history. The human will not be terminated. Outrage erupted. He has already compromised our order. He threatens stability. The youngest judge did not waver. Stability built on fear is not stability. It is stagnation. The central judge looked down at the chamber. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her expression. Return the human to containment, she ordered. We will deliberate. Elias was escorted out, but this time, the guards lowered their weapons. As the chamber doors closed, the Sapphire Court remained divided, their authority bleeding away with every argument. The alien females were escorted to separate quarters, but they were no longer isolated from each other. Conversations began. Questions spread. Why had no one ever asked for their consent before? Why did obedience feel empty now? Why did the human's endurance feel stronger than force? In his suite, Elias sat quietly, staring at his hands. He felt tired beyond words. But beneath the exhaustion was something else: hope. Humanity had not fired a weapon. It had stood still and refused to break. And in doing so, it had shown an ancient empire something it had forgotten how to see: a future that could not be controlled but could still survive. The court believed it could still contain the damage. They were wrong, because once a mind learned it could choose, it never forgot. And the galaxy was about to learn what humans did best. They endured, and they changed everything around them. The Sapphire Court deliberated for 3 full cycles, longer than any session in its recorded history. Behind sealed barriers of light and sound, the judges argued, calculated, and feared what they could no longer fully control. Outside those chambers, the capital world changed in small but dangerous ways. Questions spread, not shouted, not protested, simply asked. Why was the human still alive? Why had the bonding rite been paused? Why were young adults speaking to each other without approval signals? Elias Rourke felt the tension even inside his holding suite. The air seemed heavier, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Guards still stood watch, but now they spoke to each other in low voices. Sometimes they looked at him, not with hostility, but with curiosity. On the 4th cycle, Elias was summoned again. This time, there were no restraints, no weapons raised. The walk to the court chamber felt different, quieter. The great doors opened, and Elias stepped inside. The Sapphire Court looked smaller than before, not physically, but in presence. Their perfect unity was gone. Some judges sat rigid, others restless. The youngest judge stood apart, her posture calm, her gaze steady. The central judge spoke. Captain Elias Rourke. The court has reached a verdict. Elias stood straight, hands at his sides. I'm listening. The bonding rights are hereby suspended indefinitely, the judge said, pending structural review of their purpose and consequences. A shockwave of signals passed through the chamber. This alone would have shaken the galaxy, but the judge was not finished. Furthermore, she continued, the human subject is released from compulsory participation. Elias blinked once. He had hoped for survival. He had not expected release. The youngest judge stepped forward. Not as a prisoner, she said clearly, but as a representative. Murmurs erupted. You cannot grant that status, another judge protested. We already have, the youngest replied. By listening, the central judge raised her hand for silence. Her voice was tight. Humanity will be reclassified. Elias felt his pulse quicken. Not as a lesser species, the judge said, but as a cultural disruptor class. I ready on Welland. The term echoed strangely. The judge continued. Your species demonstrates an ability to survive forced systems without assimilation. Exposure to human cognitive frameworks results in irreversible ideological shifts. Elias allowed himself a small breath. That sounded like fear. And respect. You are dangerous, the judge said flatly. Elias nodded. We've been called worse. A few of the younger judges flickered with amusement. That, too, was new. The central judge looked at him for a long moment. You will return to Earth. You will tell your leaders that the Sapphire Court seeks restructuring. Elias raised an eyebrow. That's a big word. It must be, she replied. The old structure can no longer hold. Behind the judges, the alien females who had participated in the rite stood together. No restraints, no silence. They watched Elias with open eyes. One of them stepped forward and bowed not in submission, but in respect. Thank you, she said simply. Elias inclined his head. Take care of each other. The court session ended without ceremony. Elias was escorted to a departure platform overlooking the city. A sleek diplomatic vessel waited, its human markings visible even among alien design. As he approached, he felt something he had not expected: relief. Before boarding, the youngest judge appeared beside him, her presence quiet but firm. You did not conquer us, she said. Elias looked out over the city, Humans rarely do. Then what did you do? She asked. Elias considered the question. We survived long enough for you to see yourselves. She nodded slowly. That may be more disruptive than conquest. As the ship lifted into the sky, Elias watched the alien capital recede. He knew what would follow. Councils. Debates. Resistance. Maybe even civil fracture. Change was never gentle. The journey back to Earth took weeks. Elias spent most of it resting. His body finally allowed to feel the cost of endurance. Medical officers monitored him constantly, amazed that his neural patterns had not only stabilized, but strengthened. He adapted at a structural level, one doctor said. They tried to shape him, and he shaped himself instead. When the ship arrived, Elias did not receive a parade. He received a quiet landing, a closed room, and a room full of leaders who looked at him as if he were something fragile and powerful at the same time. The general who had approved the exchange spoke first. You were never meant to win. Elias sat down slowly. I know. You were meant to survive. The general continued. Elias nodded. I did that too. Reports flooded in over the following months. The Sapphire Court officially dissolved itself, replaced by a representative council that included voices never heard before. Forced bonding laws were abolished, cultural exchange protocols rewritten. Across the galaxy, civilizations took notice. Humanity was no longer seen as weak, nor was it seen as dominant. It was seen as something else entirely. A species that could enter a system designed to erase it and walk out, leaving that system questioning itself. Alien diplomats began arriving on Earth, cautious but curious. They asked questions humans had asked each other for centuries. How do you live with disagreement? How do you function without absolute control? How do you survive chaos? Humans answered honestly, badly, sometimes, painfully, but forward. Elias returned to a quieter life. He declined promotions, declined political roles. He taught instead, sharing lessons not of strength, but of endurance. When asked what the greatest weapon humanity possessed, he always gave the same answer. We don't give up who we are, he said, even when it would be easier. Far across the stars, the young alien female who had first spoken out stood before her people, no longer afraid of silence. She remembered the human who had endured without forcing, who had resisted without hatred. She spoke the words that would one day be carved into history. Humans do not conquer worlds with fire. They survive systems meant to crush them. And in surviving, they make those systems obsolete. The galaxy listened. And for the first time, it was not afraid of humanity's strength. It was afraid of humanity's ideas.